What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Mach 1 Method. I'm Coach Jason.
Coach Patrick. Coach Big Bad Bob.
I don't have the mic. All right, today we're going to be chit-chatting, talking to you guys about the importance of recovery and deload. So first, let's just address what a deload is. So when we're creating training programs, whether it's for athletes or adult population, we want to integrate highs and lows, ebbs and flows into the program. As much as we might want to, we can't just continuously expect to make progress at a linear rate. So we have to intentionally program these peaks and the valleys in order to mitigate any sort of, plateau when it comes to progress. So, I think a really great sport and a really great example of when deloading is appropriate is powerlifting. So who better to kick us off with deloading than the powerlifting man himself, Mr. Big Bad Bob?
How's it going? So actually, speaking of deloading and
Tell us, Bob.
So I guess I could start off with like the importance of deloading and what I personally should have done. I kind of overrided my deload because I just was having a lot of fun lifting heavy, and I was like, "Oh yeah, let's go!"
How dare you have fun?
How dare I have fun? And then I quite literally met my CNS systematic fatigue rhabdo wall, like felt the wall I hit, and now I have to like force a system deload. And
so tell us what it feels like to really push to that point, and not only how it feels, but what are you going to do now that you've kind of hit that point, and what we can do in the future to kind of work around and avoid that.
So it's actually crazy because I feel like you don't see the wall until it's too late. Like where I was squatting heavy and benching heavy on Tuesday. So I was doing like 560 squat for a 3x3. Went a little above weight than I was supposed to.
Off program.
Off program. See, even coaches mess up sometimes. And and so I felt great, had a great workout, no complaints, went home, recovered, and then the day after I was supposed to deadlift heavy. And it was weird because like the whole day I'm kind of feeling like good about working out, but then when I start warming up, I'm taking longer, but not really realizing it. The caffeine's just not quite hitting. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just a little tight from the other day. Things are feel a little tighter. Warm-up's taking a little longer than it's supposed to. And then like when I start trying to put on more weight on the bar, usually a warm-up you're supposed to feel better. And I just started slowly feeling worse and worse. And then by the time I hit my first top set, it barely could break the ground. And it's a weight that I can do for reps. And hitting that wall was like kind of a reminder that like even though I feel good, my body is still the one that's in charge. And I met like, I guess like my system overload. Like my system was like overloaded from all the lifting I was doing. And I guess from what we're doing now, we're doing a full protocol, proper protocol. So that protocol is basically I've just been taking a lot of liquid IV. I've been, resting, eating, and making sure I get 8 hours sleep. And I think what's like the most important thing about the deload is that now it's like it's not intentional. Now it's necessary. And I don't think as a power lifter, as a coach, and as an athlete, you ever want to get to that necessary point, because now it's like the plan. I wouldn't say the plan is off course, but now it's like this is a wrench, and we just got to deal with it.
So that's kind of like your plan now that you hit a little bit of a wall, right? Or at least we can look at a positive and say you stopped yourself before you like went through that wall, right? So what does a deload protocol supposed to look like in, if done properly?
So real quick before we start, I just feel this is a really good topic to listen to, with the understanding that if you don't program a deload, your body's going to force a deload, right? So you want to make sure that you're kind of beating that curve and taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, so that way when it's time to build in that deload, you're doing it in stride and you're coming out of it aggressive and refreshed rather than going through all these symptomatic uh, ways that it's forcing you to pull back. It might extend how long you have to recover. So we'll go into Jason's question, but I want you guys to keep that in mind while he talks about it.
What was the question again? Sorry.
No, I just want you to talk about like
This
you
is part of the
mentioned
deload I
bringing
need.
up like taking in like liquid IV and like prioritizing your hydration and your sleep. And obviously there's some overlap in terms of like, that's how those are like good recovery strategies, but a lot of them are kind of like off the cuff right now because you're trying to like make up for like not taking that deload at the right time.
Oh, so it is like a systematic one feel like.
What is a normal deload protocol
okay.
look like when properly programmed, like Pat was mentioning?
Okay, cool. So basically, like a deload done right, it obviously it could depend on the lifter. More like advanced lifters who lift like very, I guess you say life-threatening weights. Probably you could do like I say like 4 to 5 weeks. Like the most elite lifters in the world, they definitely take their deloading very seriously. Like it's part of their identity is to deload because you can't lift that weight that they were lifting. They're pushing human boundaries and limits every week, so it's like you have to deload accordingly. For intermediate to like beginner lifters, probably like, you could probably space that out even a little longer, like 8 to 9 weeks. But a proper deload done right it's not necessarily have to do with like stop lifting and just stop doing everything altogether. It's just literally take the load off and like whatever percentage you're working at, just subtract it. And like I've done ones with my powerlifters, we take 15% off, 20% off, just depending on how they feel, maybe what they got going on. And I think sometimes with how I like to structure with my powerlifters and our powerlifters we coach with the ones in college is sometimes if we get really creative long term, I would try to maybe deload them maybe weeks or just how it lines up with like their comp, maybe weeks that they have like finals or midterms, and like okay, deload it, and it works out that you could study for midterms and you get to deload from the gym, so you don't have to be there for as long. But obviously like that's kind of like a very strategic plan. You don't have to get that advanced, but I definitely think maybe like 4 to 5 weeks, cut the weight down. Like I think even like as a lifter and as like a coach, I think like I still have that like headstrong lifter mentality where I just want to lift all the time. I don't want to get as big as possible and as strong as possible. And it's like that obsession is like in itself, like it is a drive. But I feel like from what I've learned from this experience now is that like it also takes strength to know when to pull back and know when to like tell yourself enough. Like you need to stop. And I think like those weeks where it's like you're not lifting, you're like, oh, all I think about is going to the gym right now. All I think about is lifting heavy. It's like to callous your mind to like stop thinking those thoughts is strength itself, is to like pull it all back and to be like, I'm better than this. Let me do this smart.
So while we're kind of being like vulnerable and very relatable with the topic about deloading and how it can be a struggle to want to deload and trust that process, let's talk about ways that you personally would actually look forward to your next deload. What would you incorporate in your programming?
So we actually talked about it with incorporating things that like maybe I need that I've been skipping. So like attacking mobility exercises and stability exercises. So maybe like that like hunger and drive to lift heavy, maybe I take it and do another discipline of fitness in order to like enhance powerlifting. We were talking about like maybe more yoga or maybe like, do more like maybe calisthenic work on the ground, like some like, stability exercises, just kind of like doing something that's difficult but doesn't require 500 pounds on your back to do that. And I've actually been getting more into yoga, and I love yoga. I think it's so fun. I do hot yoga with my mom, and shout out Deb. You know who else does hot yoga? My mom. I think like just I think doing like other disciplines of the gym is like would help me personally get over the hump of not powerlifting, like attacking yoga head on, or maybe doing like more like maybe outside like jogging or something that I could take all that like pent up like lifting energy and like funneling it to something that maybe I neglect, like mobility routines. Like I know the guys are going to make me a mobility routine to attack every day. So it's like I have something that I can look at and be like, okay, I'm going to do this day and I'm going to attack full force, rather than be like, okay, I'm supposed to deload this week, but I'm going to actually deadlift 800 pounds. So yeah.
So, with that being said, there's a lot of different aspects of fitness. We have the strength bucket, we have the endurance bucket, we have the mobility, the stability, coordination, and proprioception, right? So, there's a lot of different buckets that we can address when it comes to fitness. And taking that same intent, that same drive that you put all focus into for powerlifting, usually strength, you can take that same effort, that same time, that same discipline and accountability and sprinkle it amongst the others. So something really important to consider when you are doing training is, are you filling those buckets throughout the year? It's important to understand phases. And, if we're prepping for powerlifting, our main discipline is powerlifting, we're going to spend more time in the strength. However, there's a lot of opportunity in a calendar year to make sure we're filling in our cardio, our mobility, getting hot yoga with Deb, stuff like that. So you want to elaborate on what that looks like?
Yeah, it kind of segues into what I was gonna bring up, but like it's in the same topic of, deloading is really under the umbrella of recovery, and recovery doesn't always look like deloading per se, right? There's things that we can be doing on a regular basis in our programming to facilitate that recovery. The more time we spend in deload, that's the less time, like you were saying, like we are spending in strength phases per se. So we don't want to ignore the time when we deload or when we need it, but we also want to make sure we're doing things that, are helping our recovery on a regular basis, especially in those heavy strength training phases when like it's not the time to deload. Like we need to be hitting the ground running, right? So like, things like changing up the focus of a training program, right? Or implementing, I'll say like different movements than you're normally doing and working on different movement patterns. I think it's a great way to stimulate recovery because you're getting your body moving. Let's say powerlifting, for example, squat, bench press, deadlift, it's all in the sagittal plane, right? If we're doing movements in the frontal and transverse plane, I'd say that's a way that you can be programming recovery into your program because you're just giving that sagittal plane a little bit of a rest, right? Other strategies, Bobby, you mentioned like sleep and hydration. Those are like an easy given, but just because they're easy to like think of and talk about, it doesn't necessarily mean it's always easy in practice, right? So those like recovery strategies are really important. Like I know, like we all can, I think, relate to it and talk about it. Like being in the gym like 12 hours a day, we're working hard. Plus, we're finding time.
Didn't realize you worked part-time.
Yeah, right. Pretty much. It's I guess that's a light day, right? But long hours in the gym, trying to make time for our own training, right? A big thing is sleep, right? And like making sure that we're implementing strategies to get as much quality sleep as possible too. I know for me, I try to limit electronics before bed. Sometimes like even like having like certain drinks like before bed to like calm down the nerves and everything like that, and just like having all my work done, at least 30 to 40 minutes before lying down. Like those are things that just like help me in my recovery. I don't know if you guys have any like tips for like sleeping or like getting to bed or making sure that you're like staying in like a good quality sleep, not just getting like, your bare minimum. But those are obviously like really important aspects to the recovery game.
Yeah, there's a lot of different tools and tactics you can utilize when it comes to like prepping for sleep for quality reasons. I think consistency is also a big factor when it comes to sleep. So like you might be able to get 8 hours, but are you sleeping from 10 to 6? Are you sleeping from 3 a.m. to 11? Very different 8-hour sleep windows, right? So trying to get yourself in a routine that's realistic, because I know a lot of people have these goals they set out for, and they're like, I'm gonna go to bed by 9:30 every night, and next thing you know, they're up until 11:30, and then it's just unrealistic because of life events. We're here closing the gym, we don't get home till 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's hard to have a bedtime of 9:30 sometimes, right? So just being honest with yourself and building it around your schedule so it's consistent and it's sustainable is something very important just in life for sleep, nutrition, training, etc. So as long as you kind of master that skill set, you make it realistic, you can really run with that very far. From nutrition, make sure you're getting protein, but also make sure you're getting carbs. A lot of people don't realize how important carbs are when it comes to recovering and fueling your body. Protein is the hot topic right now in terms of everyone needs to get enough protein. If you look at all the food labels now, it's all marketing towards high protein. Make sure you're getting well-balanced carbs, healthy fats. Make sure you're getting your micros in there too, like your vitamins. If you're not taking a multivitamin, eat your fruits and vegetables, eat the rainbow, all that stuff. You know, all that can have a direct correlation to how you recover from your training. Hydration, right? If you have a great week and then it gets nice out and you're outside, you're not drinking water, you know, that can directly impact your training the next day. So it's very ebb and flow of how you fuel your body and prepare, how training can reflect going down the stream the rest of that week. Talking about exercise recovery though, how to like keep things fun, keep things aggressive. You like lifting heavy, right? Love it, right? So take something like a deadlift, and then now let's do like a single leg RDL. Heavy.
Yeah.
What is the percentage of weight that you're moving relative to your deadlift? Like 10, maybe 20% at the most, right? It's like very
It's gonna be really like not in close to my max deadlift at all.
for sure.
It's gonna be hard.
You're going to have the opportunity to lift relatively heavy because you're challenging that new skill. You're taking an element of stability, and you're making sure that you're moving multiplanar, like Jason was saying. You know, there's different ways to keep yourself in that like I like heavy mentality, but taking different exercises and swapping them up. So super easy way to keep things fun, but in line with your goals.
Yeah, like I think last week I did like what I thought was a chill yoga session turned out to be like a 1 hour, like high tempo, hot power vinyasa class. So it was a little high tempo than I thought. So I thought we were just doing like, you know, light little stretches. Then all of a sudden they were like, all right, are you guys ready? And then the EDM kicked on. I was like, but yeah, and like a lot of the moves you were saying were like, you know, multiplanar, and like I was doing single leg, like Warrior 3 after we just did like a tree pose and like all that stuff with a single leg, and it was like, you know, jokingly, like my mom's friends were like, oh, you squat 600, like this should be easy for you, and I'm like, it's not, it won't be easy, like it's gonna be hard, but I also got like the sweat, I got like the cardio aspect I really liked, I got like the different type of energy systems kicking in that normally don't, and it was just like it was a fun way to like explore different disciplines of training, which is like really fun.
I think that's also something to consider, just because we kind of used your recent deload experience as like a guinea pig for this conversation.
My little slip up.
Well, you know, you're training really hard with your powerlifting training, right? And then you started to take on yoga, which is new for you. And even though yoga is often associated with stretching, relaxing, and it definitely can be, as you experienced, yoga and other disciplines can be intense.
Oh yeah.
So, and especially if you're not used to it, right? Those things can make you really sore.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I was like pretty beat up. I think I did on a Saturday, and then Monday I was like still feeling it. And I've gotten over like squat like sessions that were heavier and like, you know, in a day, and now that just like kicked my butt.
I think we find a lot of parallels with that example in our Olympic lifting, when we have people on the Olympic lifting team who may also implement, you know, either other aspects of fitness or CrossFit into their programming, and they're trying to basically do all the things.
Yeah.
And when you try to do all the things, you're getting really close at going nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, you have to make sure that you're focusing on certain disciplines in a hierarchy when you're implementing your yoga. Remember, like if you're in like a peaking phase for powerlifting, you're making sure that you're going on easy yoga classes. You know, you're not going to hot power. right? You know, if you're prepping for an Olympic lifting meet, you're also not doing
Powerlifting.
the CrossFit Open or powerlifting, right? You know, and whatever your focus is for that block of training, you know, you're doing things that supplement what you're focusing on, but aren't detracting from the results that you could be getting.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Because it's definitely like really, and I'm sure you guys experience too, with like when you're doing Olympic lifting or like powerlifting or whatever, it's very easy, I feel like, to get like really sucked into it and like really like it becomes sort of like your identity and like you don't want to do anything else. And like I've been like I recently got out of that with powerlifting. I had to go to yoga to like shake it out and like be like, oh my god, there's other stuff around here. Like I could do fun stuff. Like
yeah.
I was like, I love it. I love powerlifting. A little too
Doesn't
much.
mean
But
you're going anywhere from it though. It just means
Yeah.
that, you know, you're broadening your expertise and your capabilities.
like I control it and it doesn't control me.
I always think of like people say Kobe did like ballet in the off season. You
Yeah.
know,
And so did Arnold.
there you go.
Yeah.
It's a
absolutely.
Mach 1 Ballet Club.
So
Starting this
tune
summer.
in- tune in for the next episode of the podcast where we all do ballet.
You gotta subscribe to that one.
Oh yeah, subscribe. That's it. That's on the
Premium membership.
That's on the not free YouTube channel. But leave your questions, comments, concerns surrounding recovery and deloads in the comments. We'd be happy to address them. Hopefully this information helped you all. I think that's it. Mach 1 out.
Boom.
I was like,